Hi, my name is Emily Witte, and I am a graduate student at Morningside College. I also teach second grade. My research was focused in reading, specifically the effects of a fluency program on the rate and accuracy of second grade students. So as we look at current research, we see 63% of fourth grade students perform below proficiency on the NAEP reading assessment. 74% of third grade students reading below grade level proficiency will never catch up to their on-level peers. And 1 in 6 third grade students reading below grade level proficiency will not graduate from high school on time. And in fact, are 4 times likelier to drop out. So why did I choose fluency? Well, fluency is a key component of second grade literacy instruction. In fact, it has the largest expected growth of any of the grades in my school. There's also the Iowa Early Literacy Law, which states that, or is targeting kindergarten through third grade classrooms and schools to improve literacy scores. So I want to find a way to focus on fluency instruction that can be individualized, effective, and carried out by a classroom teacher in a classroom. So fluency is effortless reading with accuracy, automaticity, and prosody. It is also one of the most accurate predictors of comprehension and is often thought of as a bridge between phonics and comprehension. The theory I looked at was the automaticity theory by LaBerge and Samuels. In this theory, they talk about how if you are a less fluent reader, you are devoting so many of your resources and energy to decoding words, to sounding out those words. All of that cognitive space is being used for that. And when you get to answer, you use so much on those decoding skills that comprehension is lost. For a more fluent reader, those decoding skills are automatic. You have the sight words down. You kind of breeze through that passage, and all of your resources and energy and cognitive space can be used for comprehension, understanding your text, and adding prosody. Connecting that comprehension and fluency, I found a couple studies that also did that. Of 100 participants, they looked at a couple different subtests and found that prosody is actually an essential component of reading fluency. In another study with 1,300 participants in a reading first school, they looked at a couple different conditions of fluency and found mastering of fluency skills early produces better reading outcomes in later grades and showed an importance of early identification in those reading difficulties. Connecting fluency, one way to do that for teachers is through repeated reading. In a study using repeated reading with 2 participants, repeated reading was modeled, or fluent reading was modeled, and these 2 participants collectively increased their words per minute by 16.5, increased their sight word vocabulary by 145.5, and each of them increased 1 grade level in comprehension. Another study with 30 participants using a reading together intervention showed the most significant gains in prosody with substantial gains in rate and 5.2 word weekly gain. Gaps in the research noticed that many definitions are used to define what constitutes fluency. There were also a lot of different text used to measure fluency, some nonsense, lists, connected text, just a variety of different text, and also comparing fluency programs. There was a lack of comparing fluency programs to oral fluency reading rates. So the purpose of this study is to add to understanding of oral reading fluency growth. It is to observe how automaticity is affected by repeated reading and to determine the effectiveness of whole group fluency program on the reading rate and reading accuracy. The question asked was, will the implementation of a fluency program increase the oral reading rate and accuracy of second grade students? To do this, I used an experimental research design, taking a control group and an experimental group. I used the independent variable of the 6-minute solution reading reading fluency program. Dependent variables oral reading fluency rate was measured by correct words per minute, while automaticity was measured by accuracy percentage. The hypothesis of this stated: second grade students who participate in the 6-minute solution reading fluency program will show a significant difference in mean oral fluency scores and reading accuracy percentages than if they did not participate in the fluency program. Possible impacts of the study can be results can be used in the RTI process. It can help teachers make supplemental or intervention instructional decisions. Methods. So the participants in this study were 37 second grade participants, 18 male, 19 female, in a Midwest elementary school, Title I building, with 45% of the students qualifying for free or reduced lunch. The demographics showed that over half, just a little over half of these students in the study were white, with 28% being Black or African American, and some other cultures represented as well. And additional services given to these students, 3% were in ELL, 5% had an IEP in reading. Along with that, the reading proficiency status of these two groups, the control group was one second grade classroom and the experimental group was another second grade classroom. In the control group, 16% of the students were persistently at risk, showing difficulties in reading, whereas 84% were above benchmark. In the experimental group, 14% were persistently at risk, 10% were at risk for a reading difficulty, and 76% were above the benchmark. The assessment materials used, it was the FastBridge CBMR reading assessment. So they read 3 second grade passages for 1 minute each. Errors are recorded by a teacher using a touchscreen computer. The correct words per minute are scored and the accuracy and percentages are scored as well. Reliability and validity was developed and field tested with over 500 participants. There was evidence of test and retest reliability and the reliability of a slope. And there was a strong correlation to 5 other similar assessments. The materials used, both of the control and experimental group used McGraw-Hill Wonders 2017 as their core literacy program. The experimental group used 6-minute solution reading fluency program on top of that core literacy program. Additional materials was the partner behavior chart with a script that helped students. There was also a passage from the 6-minute solution based on the level of text a student could read, and a fluency chart that students were able to graph their correct words per minute each day. Other materials used, each person had a double pocket folder with page protector for their passages to go into. Each pair had a fluency timer and an expo marker to use on their page protector. So the procedure of this, it started with creating partnerships, using the pre-assessment data from the CBMR and an assessment in the 6-minute solution, the San Diego Quick Assessment, which determined independent reading level. Those 2 scores were taken to form homogeneous reading pairs, partner 1 and partner 2, that would be reading together. Using 6-minute solutions, I kind of talked about what the program was, so introducing the program, talking about fluency, the concept of fluency, what fluency is, parts of fluency, and then the 6-minute solution procedures were explained, modeled, and practiced and practiced and practiced. There was whisper reading, tracking while listening, underlying unknown words, identifying the last word read, calculating words correct per minute, and graphing their results. This program was started on a Monday and followed the same weekly pattern for 12 weeks. Every Monday, the teacher led small groups. In those small groups, partners completed reading, The participants independently read the passage and then underlined unknown words. The passages were read aloud to students, modeling fluency, and then everyone chorally read the passages together. Then on Tuesdays through Fridays, the whole class worked at one time. Partners completed the reading, timing, and graphing. On Fridays, they figured out the difference between their cold Monday read and their final hot read to see how many words they gained each week. The data analysis portion used post-assessment from FastBridge CBMR Winter Screener. It is the same 3 passages used for pre and post test, and was looking for the difference in the mean growth of reading rate and accuracy between the control group and the experimental group. Was that statistically significant? To determine that, I used an independent samples t-test. So you can see by this graph that both groups gained words read per minute. Control group growth was 18.78 words. Experimental group growth was 28.74 words. Unfortunately, looking at the standard deviations, it was not statistically significant difference in that growth. Then looking at the automaticity, you can again see that both groups did gain. The control growth was 3.69%, and the experimental growth was 6.05% accuracy growth. Again, looking at that standard deviation though, it was not statistically significant. So my results, the hypothesis was not confirmed. Both the groups, yes, they did increase reading rate and accuracy, but the difference between those groups was not statistically significant enough. Some limitations in this study with the participant, the sample size was 37 participants and only 1 ELL student. Future study would hope to encompass more grade levels and comprise a wider student population. For instruction, a limitation was that this was conducted core literacy instruction by 2 different teachers that had very different teaching styles. A future study might want to divide the groups receiving the same core instruction to see if there was a difference. And then the length of study and time, this lasted 12 weeks. It was also at the beginning of the school year, so those routines are not yet set. It's very short independent practice time. For future study, maybe look at the comparison of growth over multiple testing periods, so more than just 2. And actually maybe even look to see if it is retained in another year or so. Some other limitations. Some students have more family support, additional reading done outside of the school day, and some participants receive 2-tier interventions. Implications for students. That increasing the amount of time reading and rereading level text is going to have a direct impact on their fluency. Reading those appropriate level text is going to help. For teachers and schools, there's no need for an expensive fluency program. You need to intentionally build time into the day for reading appropriate text. Fluency instruction can be carried out by a single classroom teacher, and all students can participate. For families, we need to teach families and students how to identify what is an appropriate level text and send level texts or passages home to read. Promote time spent reading at home. The conclusion, there's a natural progression of reading growth and word accuracy that occurs with core reading instruction. Rereading level text daily produced a slight difference in mean oral reading scores and accuracy than not participating in a repeated reading program. And a very basic intervention may lead to an increase in student oral reading fluency rates and accuracy, but is not necessary for growth. Here are a list of my references. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, and I look forward to getting your feedback and questions. Thank you so much.